Big news, ladies and gents, coming out of the Hedera Hashgraph ecosystem with the launch of AUDD, which stands for the Australian Digital Dollar. Now, we're going to be breaking all of this down. I think this is more confirmation in regards to our investment thesis on Hedera Hashgraph. And that investment thesis is a very simple one. I believe distributed ledgers are going to play a major role in tomorrow's world. In fact, they are going to redefine finance as we know it. They are going to be the operating systems upon which, and there's not just going to be one winner, I just happen to think Hedera is going to be one. They're going to be the operating systems on which a global financial world is launched. So the internet of value is kind of how we're coining it. And I think Hedera Hashgraph is going to play a major role in that. And with the launch of AUDD, we have some more confirmation of that. So we're going to be breaking the news down. We'll also be talking about the broader ramifications of this. We're going to be talking, of course, about what's happening in the United States with the launch or the passing of the Genius Act, which sees a legislative framework put in place for stablecoins, digital dollars, if you will. Now, it's not just the dollar and the US that is going to adopt this, but the world and currencies more broadly. And we'll also be playing a clip of an individual from the company that's actually launching AUDD, talking about why an Australian digital dollar. And ultimately, this comes down to every country needing a version, a crypto-enabled version, likely facilitated on public distributed ledgers of their current fiat systems. It's not just the US that's adopting this, it's going to be everyone. And I think Hedera is going to capture a good chunk, and we see further confirmation of this on a day-to-day basis of that overall market. Certainly we also know, and one of the last things we covered in regards to Australia and Hedera specifically was Project Acacia, which is essentially sort of piloted by the RBA, which is the Reserve Bank of Australia, which is Australia's central bank. And you can see, of course, Hedera Hashgraph is on the shortlist networks for pilot of a wholesale CBDC, Hedera private permissioned, and there's one proposal for this. So we know Hedera has links in Australia. Of course, we've interviewed Rob Allen on a number of occasions, but today we have news in regards to AUDD. So this is from the HBAR Foundation, or the Hedera Foundation. We're excited to announce that AUDD, the Australian digital dollar stablecoin, has officially launched on the Hedera network. Through this integration, we look forward to driving digital payments through APAC and beyond. Leveraging the stablecoin studio AUDD Digital on Hedera benefits from the network's enterprise-grade performance, including transaction finality in seconds, predictable fees of 0.001 US dollar per transaction, and a carbon negative footprint. I've always highlighted this. I think when it comes to Hedera, it's a very obvious choice for governments, retail, retailers, corporations, institutions to essentially leverage. And that's very much how it's positioning itself. And it's very much how 21 Shares put it forward in regards to their ETP as being, or allowing people to invest via their ETP that they launched in a institutional grade DLT that I think is going to have a major impact. My entire investment thesis when it comes to Hedera is all about the fact that I understand this technology is going to have a big impact. It's my job to try and figure out which ones are going to be leaders within that. The entire financial system is going to be run on the rails of DLT. Money itself is going to be run on the rails of DLT. And this is a part of that puzzle. And this is just one of many things that, of course, Hedera Hashgraph has going for it. So it says, through this integration, we look forward to driving digital money forward in APAC and beyond through real-world financial use cases on Hedera, from cross-border and micropayments to digital marketplaces and green asset flows. It goes on to say you can read more about AUDD on Hedera in our latest HBAR blog, and that's exactly what we're going to dive over to. So it is currently the 19th today. So this news at the time of reporting is not even 24 hours old, and this is coming out of Melbourne, Australia. AUDC launches AUDD, the Australian digital dollar stablecoin, on the Hedera network via Hedera Stablecoin Studio, enabling real-time, low-cost AUD, Australian dollar, payments with sustainable infrastructure and enterprise-grade stability or scalability. AUDC, Pty Ltd, so limited, issuer of the Australian digital dollar, AUDD, which we're here to talk about today, today announced the official launch of AUDD on the Hedera network. This deployment, achieved in collaboration with the Hedera Foundation, marks the first time an Australian digital dollar or dollar stablecoin has been natively issued on Hedera using the Hedera token service, and represents the first commercial implementation of the Hedera stablecoin studio, which I think is yet to heat up. Once the equation has been proved, you're going to see the floodgates open in regards to some of the services that Hedera offers, and they've done it in a very unique fashion. So with the launch of AUDD, with this launch, AUDD can now be held, sent and received by anyone using a Hedera-enabled digital wallet, offering seamless real-world access to Australian dollar stablecoin payments. The stablecoin benefits from Hedera's enterprise-grade performance include transaction finality in seconds, predictable fees of 0.001 cents or US dollars per transaction or transfer, and a carbon negative footprint. These attributes make Hedera the ideal infrastructure for programmable finance, micropayments, and sustainability linked digital ecosystems. We talk about the well-positioned nature of Hedera Hashgraph all the time, and again, our thesis is we think this technology is going to be extremely impactful, just like the internet was. We want to find out what cryptos are going to play a role in enabling that impact. Hedera ticks so many boxes. It goes on to say, AUDD on Hedera marks a major step forward for digital money in the APAC region and beyond. We're proud to be the first commercial implementation of the Hedera stablecoin studio. So this isn't just a big thing in regards to the Australian digital dollar. It's a big thing also in regards to Hedera stablecoin studio. And this is the first project brought to market. There are going to be many, in my opinion. And we'll talk about how the Australian digital dollar fits into the broader stablecoin ecosystem in just a second. So bringing real-time, low-cost and environmentally conscious payments to enterprises, institutions and smart contract ecosystems, said the CEO of AUDC Pty Limited. As the tokenization of goods, services and assets accelerate, stablecoins like AUDD will be central to ensuring real-world currencies interact securely with decentralized finance. As tokenization continues to reshape industries from carbon credits to tokenized assets, AUDD on Hedera provides institutions with a stable, regulated and interoperable digital currency that meets both performance and compliance needs. Hedera's enterprise-grade throughput, energy efficiency and EVM compatibility makes it uniquely suited to support stablecoins that need to scale globally without compromising sustainability or cost effectiveness. The launch of AUDD as a native token on Hedera is a transformative moment for both the network and the global stablecoin landscape, said the head of fintech and payments at HBAR Incorporated. AUDC's work aligns strongly with our goals of advancing real-world financial use cases on Hedera, from cross-border or micropayments and digital marketplaces to ESG reporting and green asset flows. AUDD's integration with Hedera expands its availability as part of a growing multi-chain framework that already includes Ethereum, Stellar, XRP, Solana, and XDC. This blockchain agnostic approach positions AUDD as foundational infrastructure for tokenized value exchange across DeFi payments and trade applications, empowering innovation while meeting the needs of regulators. AUDD is now available for one-to-one purchase with AUD via, and there's a link there, and can now be accessed through leading Hedera-compatible wallets and infrastructure. So this is a big deal. This, of course, is AUDD announcing this. They're, of course, highlighting the fees. I think Hedera, in regards to stablecoins, really stands out because it's significantly cheaper than many of the others out there. This is their kind of press release on it. And just the other day, we saw the Genius Act pass. Now, what this solidifies to me, and this is Scott Bessent, the Treasury, the 79th United States Secretary of the Treasury, the Genius Act solidifies to me the clear trend towards stablecoins as the evolution of money. And it's not just the United States dollar that is going to benefit from this technology. All countries around the world are now going to have to scramble, with the US as a leader in regards to this, or a trendsetter in regards to this. They're somewhat late in opposition with some of the others out there. But all countries around the world are going to have to scramble, and they're going to look for technologies that are going to enable this. And just like the United States, this is going to take place on public distributed ledgers, and Hedera is exceptionally well positioned. This is from Scott Besson. Recent reporting projects that stablecoins could grow into a 3.7 trillion with a T. Right now, there's 250 billion market by the end of the decade. That scenario becomes more likely with the passage of the Genius Act. A thriving stablecoin ecosystem will demand from the private sector, or will drive demand from the private sector for US treasuries, which back stablecoins. This newfound demand could lower government borrowing costs and help rein in the national debt. It could also on-ramp millions of users or new users across the globe. The dollar-based digital asset, or to the dollar-based digital asset economy. It's a win for everyone involved, the private sector, the treasury, the consumer. These are the fruits of smart, pro-innovative legislation. Do you really think it's just the United States that are going to want to introduce a new buyer to their struggling treasury markets? It's all countries around the world. They all have a similar problem. And also, they're all going to want to propagate their own currency. And they do that through harnessing this technology. And what we're showing in this video, just like we showed in a prior video that we did, where we covered the fact that the Reserve Bank of Australia themselves, the Central Bank of Australia themselves, are considering launching their wholesale CBDC on Hedera. This is what we mean when we say our thesis on investing in crypto is that it's going to change the world in a big way, certainly the world of finance. It's going to enable the internet of value. We want to find the players that are going to be involved in that. It's my opinion, in the future you could see $1 trillion Hedera Hashgraph market cap. We're a long way off that. What I want to love and leave you with now is actually a clip from the HBAR Bulls video. He actually had the opportunity to interview an individual that are essentially behind the AUDD project. Now, he asks about the fact that, stablecoins so far have been very much a US dollar narrative. The rest of the world is going to have to catch up, or may have to now come out and publicly acknowledge that they've been exploring this. We know this anyway. But he asked the question about, okay, we know about the dollar, what about and why an Australian dollar? Let's dive into this clip before I love and leave you.
So the next thing that I kind of want to get into is there's been some big news for Hedera in the stablecoin space, focusing on the United States dollar, but it is really important to have some of these regional currencies. Of course, the Australian dollar is relatively large, but maybe not compared to the United States dollar. How important is it to have these regional currencies develop their own stablecoins?
Yeah, I think it is. And to your point about what we see in the traditional space is, I'm going to do a little bit of a comparison with fiat, okay, so with cash in the ecosystem. So if we look at the trend with cash in the world globally, in terms of all the currencies that are traded, cash sits US dollars at 60% of the world's volume in terms of the payments made in that particular currency. And Australian dollars is about 2%. Right? But in the stablecoin space, we see that 99%, or maybe even a touch more, are in US dollar stablecoins. So that tells us that, well, hang on, the world can't be wrong for all these years that, the trade and everything else and payments have been made in sovereign currencies, right? So there's got to be a bit of a balancing out by having some local currency stablecoins. But more importantly than that, it's more about the sovereignty of the dollar and of the environment that economies work towards. And if I'm in Australia, I don't have US dollars in my wallet. I can't make my bill payments in US dollars. I can't make my business to business in Australia payments with US dollars. However, I can improve the process of making those payments if I introduce a stablecoin. I don't get exposed to hedging and FX risks. And so I'm able to better manage on balance sheet my treasuries, my FX exposure, all of those sorts of things that can be managed with an Australian dollar stablecoin. Now, granted, we don't have a very volatile currency, so stablecoins become even more important in those markets where there is volatility within their currency environments, and so it is a way to try to even out and stabilize. Hence the term, stabilize the value of sovereign currency in those economies.
If you're not already following Brandon, do go and do so. He's always doing great work when it comes to covering the Hedera Hashgraph ecosystem. And of course, we'll leave a link to his full video and that full interview in the description. Guys, that's it from me. Another piece of news, another piece of evidence in regards to the world that Hedera is going to enable and its key role within that. And what was really stressed there to me was the fact that it's not just the US dollar that's going to tokenize, it's all currencies. And Australia, of course, is one of the larger currencies, and is going to be needed, in regards to people that live within Australia and its own economy. So that's it from me. We see a private company doing it with AUDD, and we also know that the Australian Central Bank, the Reserve Bank of Australia, is also exploring the possibilities through Project Acacia and that pilot of actually utilising Hedera specifically, and one of a very few distributed ledgers that was actually chosen to potentially enable their wholesale CBDC. That's it from me, guys. More great news coming out of the Hedera Hashgraph ecosystem. Price will follow, in my opinion. I'll see you all in the next one.